Introduce Bob Dirgo, so is our next presenter. And I mentioned he's at the Ohio Aerospace Institute. He's the senior program manager at AOI and has been there for a little over 3 years. Now he leads their new business development efforts at the company and manage some of their larger programs, including this one, the Drive Consortium, which is their digital research, innovation, validation, and experimentation. So I think this is something that's really interesting that for if you're in small business and you're looking to get involved in any of these areas, this potentially, I think, might be really a good opportunity for you to be able to get your foot in the door. Let's put it that way. So, Bob, I will turn it over to you.
Super. Thanks, Mark. And I really enjoyed Alexis's presentation. And I think what I'm going to speak about it's kind of, I would characterize as an enabler and an entity that will actually serve some of the things the points that she made. And this first slide is just a cover slide, but it has the name of the consortia, DRIVE, and the acronym DRIVE stands for Digital Research, Innovation, Validation, and Experimentation Consortia. And the objective of this consortia, which is made up of industry, academia, and government entities, is kind of listed there to help the transformation of the U.S. Air Force through digital innovation. And that's, clicks on a lot of the points that Alexis made. So we'll go into a little bit about the DRIVE Consortia, but I think there's a lot of synergies in our two pitches, and hope to find that way. Next slide, please. So as Mark mentioned, I'm with Ohio Aerospace Institute. OAI is a private nonprofit, as is Parallax, and founded in '89. The federal law that was created to establish it to serve the two federal research centers in the state, NASA Glenn and AFRL. There's strong partnerships that we've established between government, academia, and industry, including these federal labs of the state of Ohio, Jobs Ohio, and various universities and engineering schools and manufacturing organizations. As Mark also mentioned, we merged with a joint affiliation agreement with Parallax in January 1st. So it's a much more powerful entity, the two of us combined together. Next slide, please. So DRIVE, as I mentioned, is a consortia, and OAI has had a history of managing these types of consortia over these 30 plus years. This is a list of some of the ones that we are currently advertising or managing, and including DRIVE, and then I think we're probably around 50-ish under our belt so far. And the objective is to build this collaborative, innovative, working together space that what might be competitors coming together to achieve a greater objective. Next slide, please. So the purpose and the objectives of the DRIVE Consortia, it's that first bullet there, it's to create a best-in-class, collaborative, innovative ecosystem, which is comprised of a diverse group of industry and academic entities with the capabilities and ingenuity needed to partner with the Air Force to realize these critical goals. And I think a couple of key aspects of that is the desire for this diverse, innovative group in this ecosystem. A lot of these consortia that we've managed in the past are a high bar of entry. It's a $50,000 entry point, and the Air Force specifically did not want that for this consortia. So it's a low bar of entry, $750 annual fee, and to enable this diverse ecosystem. There are the big normal players, the Raytheons, the Northrop Grumman's, that type of large DOE business partner, as well as there's one-person companies, there's institutes, there's consulting organizations, and then there's various other entities like Microsoft's from a software standpoint, ANSYS, and so it's already kind of creating that diverse ecosystem. And it's going to continue evolving. It's still a baby, relatively young, but that's where it wants to go to, and I'll speak more to that as we go. So the near-term objectives, to enroll as many members in the consortia with these capabilities, and to launch RFPs for identified projects. There was a $50 million award initially given, and to get the consortia off the ground to OAI and to manage it. And some of that money is going to be used for RFPs, and most of it actually. And I'll speak to the first one that we've already launched. And the desire is to continue to grow the organization. There's about 50 consortium members now, roughly, and I think we want to get it to about 200-ish to get a nice, good foundation. The long-term objectives are to draw upon this consortia for input in the defining of future projects. They launched the consortia. The Air Force had in its hip pocket a half dozen or so needs that they had. We wanted to get this fixed. And so specific ideas so that we're going to be drive of near-term RFPs. But that's not the end game. What's desired is to have this creative, diverse, innovative ecosystem that's coming together, teaming up, and saying, hey, Air Force, we have this capability collectively or as a team, and we can help fix you in this manner, or give them a dual pathway of information sharing, top-down, bottoms-up, so that marriage of those two flows of information create the dynamic impact that the Air Force is seeking in this transformation. And then secondly, to foster this innovative collaborative ecosystem with collaborative working groups. We want it to be a dynamic organization as opposed to a passive organization of entities that are just hanging around waiting for the next RFP to drop. So we're working to, and historically this is kind of what we've done, is to foster engagement and collaboration and teaming across horizontally between all members as well. So that there's, for me, some of the members I've talked to, there's a twofold benefit in that regard. Yeah, I'm a member and I could be the beneficiary of being an awardee for an RFP that meets the need that the Air Force has, or I can launch up some capabilities I have and get the attention of the Air Force to satisfy a need that they have. And then in addition to that, though, the horizontal engagement across membership is key. So there's, like I said, there's a very diverse group of entities, and many of the entities, either their customers or suppliers, are within this context. So then now they get a captive audience within the consortia context for capabilities or needs that exist horizontally. So, but we want to create that type of environment as an element of a characteristic of the consortia, in addition to the overall vertical needs sharing back and forth. Next slide, please. So the benefits of membership, you'll have future project calls, access to that. The project calls that will be released will be exclusively for Drive members, consortium members. So as this transformation effort picks up some steam, you're going to be right in the mix. The digital transformation is a very broad scope. This was launched at RX, and Brent Bowden is my focal point there, who's kind of been the driver. And when we've had our industry day in late February, we characterized the overall scope, and Brent characterized it as just as a kind of what Alexis is. It's a digital transformation, so it's really, as she so well pointed out, that it pretty much hits every aspect of the whole value chain. And so from a digital standpoint, you can almost say there's nothing out of scope, because you can really apply digital benefit to so many aspects of it. So that's a broad scope, very broad. And so member companies will have this unique opportunity to collaborate on trying to solve some of those needs. let's see, the Drive Consortium become a recognized source of state-of-the-art digitization capabilities. This is one point that Brent harped on. This vision of this diverse, innovative ecosystem wants to progress, and a reputation established that this becomes the go-to entity for all things digital, not just for the Air Force, but other branches of the DoD, NASA, NIST, et cetera, because it's not business as usual. We want to have this, again, it's not the elect group of, a handful of large entities that exist in these types of consortia. It's this unique, diverse, innovative ecosystem that's powerful. It's agile, nimble, and able to accomplish things fast. And so that's the reputation that we want to establish, that we can get things done, get them done fast, and get them done impactful. So I think once that's recognized, then it's the future is going to be pretty bright for this group. Next slide, please. So this is a general a framework for how OAI has typically managed these consortia in the past. In the center there, I'll start with that actually. That's there's a governance council that sits on top of things. They kind of help the strategic governance of the efforts of the consortia. Right now, it's made up of members of AFRL, members of OAI that are driving this initial early stage. The vision is, as it progresses, that will include members from the consortia as well, and that would be a rotating membership. So you have a voice in the overall strategic vision. And then there'll be mission working groups that are established, that are directed and focused on some of the targeted needs for the Air Force. And those will be subgroups of the consortia that are curious about satisfying particular needs and doing that bi-directional information flow, bottoms up, top down. And off to the left from that center box, this administrator, that's OAI's role. We're just here as a neutral third party, here to engage the members with the needs of the stakeholder, in this case, the Air Force currently, and be that facilitator and help foster this environment. Off to the left is the members block, and said we want traditional members, non-traditional defense contractors, small business, academia, and nonprofits. There are a number of universities and some smaller schools involved already, and said a lot of the big companies, mid-sized companies. So the ecosystem is evolving nicely so far. Spawning out of this engagement, there'll be project teams that are established. I think this, when I talked about the first RFP, it was so quick that there wasn't a whole lot of teaming opportunities for the members to engage in, but there had been some, but limited. But I think that as projects are established and released through RFPs, that will foster more teaming as we go to solve some of those bigger needs that the Air Force has. And then off to the right is the stakeholder, in this case, the Air Force Research Lab. They're bringing the vision of what the needs are to the table to this group to make the magic happen. Next slide, please. So the member application process is pretty straightforward. Companies have access to the membership application on the Drive Consortium website, and that Drive Consortium website is simply driveconsortium.org. If you go there, there's a member link on there. You click on that, and it will bring up like a page where you put in demographic information, which is a basic who I am, what I do kind of stuff. That gets submitted, it's reviewed, and it's, yep, this entity can bring some value to the consortia. And then we send you like an NDA, we call it proprietary information agreement, that's focused on the membership agreement, which is kind of rules of engagement for being a consortium member that OAI leverages their history in those contexts. And that's where the OAI views as it's IP, actually, because that's It's not necessarily an easy thing to bring competitors together and have them collaboratively work together. So that it was honed over these 30 plus years, and that's IP. So we protect that with an NDA. So we'll get you an NDA first, and then we'll give you the membership agreement for review and execution. And once you agree at the terms, and all members sign the same membership agreement, then there's just a minimal $750 fee to help offset the administration costs. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, there currently is, as of August 11th, there's 49 members, and another 21 are in the queue of this process I just talked about. And then I'd say almost every day or every other day, I get 2 or 3 additional inquiries. So that's it. It's continuing to grow, and it's working nicely. Again, current makeup has a lot of the large companies, and then some smaller companies, software companies I mentioned. So this diverse ecosystem is evolving as desired, and it continues to grow. It's pretty dynamic and it's exciting. Next slide, please. So we did have this first RFP, as I alluded to. It was roughly about 14 million. So it's called Manufacturing at Speed. It was broken down into a couple segments. One was the operations segment. So how do you accelerate the operations of an entity using digital techniques, with impactful solutions, greater than 50% reduction in span of time from primary issue to product, like having the first article completed of the product. And then there was the supply chain. How do you apply that same philosophy towards the supply chain, and again, accelerating the supply chain aspect using digital techniques in an impactful way. That was released, and you had to have your proposals in by June 11th, and it's in the contract officer's queue right now to finalize the awardees, and so that should happen very soon, and that will get our first RFP under our belt, and then we'll focus on some of this horizontal engagement, establish some opportunities for teaming to enable that to happen if desired before the next RFP is released. And I got to mention that we did it so quickly the first go around, there wasn't provisions to have much of that time to do so. We have a SharePoint share drive that we're going to have launched to all the members so they get visibility on who's actually in this thing, what their capabilities are, and then we'll help foster that teaming. And then next slide, please. So like I said, we're going to announce the RFP awardees soon. We'll launch this collaborative workspace, this foster teaming. Then there will be a series of virtual information sharing sessions. So where the Air Force have an opportunity to project to the consortium members, these are some specific desires, needs that we have, and we'd like you to be creative, be innovative, and come up with solutions for us. And then we're, in addition, we're going to serve that bottoms up aspect too, or give entities within the consortia to showcase who they are. So not only will that be beneficial to the Air Force and stakeholders that are interested in it, but to other consortium members, again, for that horizontal engagement. And then we'll release additional RFPs to help contribute to this overall objective. I did get a lot of traction in this additional stakeholder interest, like I alluded to, where the desired vision is, and to go beyond just AFRL or RX, who was the focal point in launching this consortium. While I was at LCID, I had a number of other directorates come up to me, and as Drive Consortia is becoming more broadly understood and aware that it even exists across the spectrum, various other directorates are saying, hey, we'd like to take advantage of it. RD said, yeah, hey, one of our members, or one of our companies that we work with is a member of the consortia. We utilize the mechanism of the Drive Consortia, and RI, RQ. So yeah, it's getting some traction, and even DLA came up to me and said, yeah, we'd like to use this mechanism. So that go-to entity for all things digital is starting them in its baby steps, which is good. Next slide, please. All right, that's all I had, and happy to field any questions if anyone has them.
Hey, Bob. So yeah, there's a number in the chat. We'll start with, so just for clarification, one of the questions dealt with about a process for young or small research organizations to engage and drive. So is that 750, that's a flat fee for anybody, no matter what size of an organization or anything?
It is, yeah, that we tried to, I know it's still 750 if we're a small organization, it's 750. It's not, that's not a, chump change, but we wanted to create that balance, a point where it's not too excessive, and we settled on 750 as a point of entry, and then we wanted it to be a one size fits all for any consortium member. So that's where it is, yeah.
Okay, great. On your website, is there a list of current consortium members? Is that something that if somebody was interested, they could look at?
It's not posted yet. We'll get that up there, and I can share that at any time if anyone wants to know that prior to us getting posted. But yeah, that's the plan, to get it listed in the near future.
Okay, great. So Amy was asking about what nonprofits are involved, and I'm not sure what the acronym, the casc.org. I don't know if you're familiar with that as a nonprofit.
That's the Coalition of Academic Scientific Congregations. So they're a coalition of about 100 universities. So Carnegie Mellon, for instance, is part of that. Traditionally, they've been focused on high performance computing, and they're including this digital engineering piece into it now.
Right.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, I'm not familiar that top of my head that they've actually joined. And so I think I would remember that one. Sounds pretty cool.
I can connect you with the executive director.
Okay.
So
yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. So
That'd be awesome. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Let's see, some questions. Rick Graves was asking about, says there's a lot of digital engineering related consortiums out there. Just curious as to how you're communicating or sharing or socializing with some similar efforts like AIAA and NIST.
We haven't done that stakeholder engagement to very much extent yet, so we're relatively new. We just had the industry day late February, and we were focused on getting this RFP up. So yeah, that broader type engagement is on our to-do list to do, and so yeah, we haven't made much inroads there, but it's desired to do that type of thing.
Yeah,
that would just follow on to that. That it'd be really good to know where you think, what kind of conferences and symposiums, where you're getting the community together, and maybe even what we could organize locally, because this sounds like it could be really powerful and a game changer. And it'd like to be part of helping organize that. I'd be happy to.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we can connect offline too, and happy to further that discussion with you, come up with a game plan.
excellent. Do you know when the next RFP is going to be put out on your website?
Like I said, my knee-jerk guess is probably going to be later this year. And the reason I say that is because there is a desire to have this opportunity for teaming, and we want to focus on that, get this first one buttoned up, get the awardees announced, contracts issued, and then really spend some time, and not just to do that quickly, the foster this teaming engagement. So I'm guessing towards the end of this year would be there are a handful in the quiver to be launched, but we want to provide this opportunity.
Yeah, understand. So any question, or excuse me, any plans to move to a digital / non-document solicitation? I'm not sure exactly what Rick, I mean, I'm sure you do it on, it's probably online right now anyway. So I guess, I don't know, Rick, if you want to come off mute and.
Yeah. So I didn't mean that to be that much of a trick question, but everything's document driven these days, and there are steps being moved to more of a maybe a model-based RFP. I understand that doesn't, make sense everywhere, but anything that you can do to get away from documents. I was just curious if you guys had thought about that or talked about that with Brinch. Over.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, that was just reflecting on that with one of our members from Case Western Reserve about not just the RP aspect, but the whole like contractual characteristics of the issuance of the RP, the
Right.
finalization contractual, the whole every step within that's a digital opportunity. And so if we can apply what we're trying to focus on, those broader needs, let's turn the lens back at ourselves and how we're going about doing this business, and apply those desires and innovation to that process. So yeah, we've had some discussions with Brent about that. It hasn't been germinated to any final extent, but I think it's definitely something we'd be interested in.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
And I think that would also serve another purpose of being a differentiator, because the overall desire is, hey, let's not do business as usual. We don't want to have these long time frames for even just getting the stuff out there and getting it evaluated and then getting it done. We want to go from 0 to 60 quicker. And so if we can create a solution that's a not business as usual way of doing business, then I think that will again create that reputation and gain some insight.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's see. I don't see any other questions right now. We can happy to take one more. If anybody has anything, you can either raise your hand, come off of mute, or just type it into the chat. Thanks a lot, Bob. Really appreciate all of that. Maybe while we're waiting here, I will ask you one question, which is, what do you think success would look like for Drive Consortium, say 12 months from now or something like that?
Yeah, I think what the success of a Drive Consortium would be, objectively looking at it, would be that if we have the growth of it continues to progress as it has been, we get to that 200-ish level, and the diversity of the makeup is strong, where we have a nice, diverse, and dynamic, innovative collaboration existing. So it's a machine then. So then it's you just throw stuff into the machine and it turns out an excellent product is what we want to create. We want to create this machine of innovation, this innovation machine that's agile and nimble, and create that reputation. We want to establish that reputation as, hey, that's something. There's some there. We want to utilize this group. And so why would you use someone else, or why would you have a need as a government stakeholder? Why would you consider something else when you get this dynamic, innovative group? So that's the ideal. Whether we'll reach that pinnacle, but that's what we're shooting for.